I never thought that betrayal begins with silence. Not with a kiss, not with a lie, not with a chance meeting. Namely, with silence. When you say something, and in response you get only a short "ee" and a blank look. Silence is the first crack, and it sounds louder than any scream. Kelly and I have been together for 6 years. Just long enough to stop being surprised, but not long enough to learn to ignore the little things. I know her voice at night. I know the way she nervously scratches her wrists when she lies. And I know that she always locks the door twice. Always. Only lately, she doesn't lock it. And she doesn't scratch her hand. And she doesn't look me in the eye when I say, "How was your day?" It all started with little things. A new perfume scent that I didn't buy. Late meetings at work. A phone that now always lies face down. I tried not to dramatize. People change. But when the rhythm changes, it's not just a change. It's a different music. That morning I woke up before she did. The sun was gliding over her shoulders, revealing the faint mark of someone else's fingers, not mine. I would have recognized mine even in the dark. I sat and stared at her until it clicked in my head. No, you're not crazy. This is a sign. Then, for the first time, I was scared. Not of her lies, but of the possibility that I might not care. I went to the bathroom, washed myself with cold water, and saw in the mirror a person I could hardly recognize. Shadows under my eyes, the corners of my lips that seemed to have forgotten how to smile. I looked at myself and realized it wasn't her who betrayed me. It was us who betrayed what we were building together. She was with someone. I was with myself when I stopped fighting. The phone rang just when I least expected it. Unknown number. "Hello?" "She's with him today, too." A man's voice, hoarse, quiet, without introduction. "If you want to know the truth, follow her after 7. And that was it. The beeps. I stood in the middle of the bathroom holding the phone and felt my stomach turn cold. It could have been a prank. But my intuition said, no, it's not a coincidence. I didn't ask, "Who are you?" Because when you're already at the bottom, the question "who" doesn't change anything. The main thing is why. That night, I did something I never would have thought of doing. I installed a small tracker in her car. An old police officer I had been drinking with after college helped me out on the sly. "Are you sure you want to know?" he asked me as he handed me the device. I said something I later came to hate. It's worse not to know. At 7 o'clock in the evening, Kelly said she was going to see a client who needed a consultation. I even nodded. I smiled, and that was the hardest part. 15 minutes later, I was sitting in my car, watching on the map as her car pulled up at an old motel outside of town. A place where you don't go for a consultation. I could have turned back. I could have pretended not to see. But my hand was already opening the door on its own. And then, a feeling as if everything around me had slowed down. The air became thick as honey. Every step sounded louder than a scream. I climbed the stairs, found the right room, heard a familiar laugh from behind the door, and in an instant, I realized I would never be the same again. I didn't go in. I just stood there and listened. And that was enough to make the world fall apart. Because when you hear the voice of the person you love and realize that they're not for you anymore, it's worse than any blow. I went back to the car, started the engine, and sat there for a long time, not moving. I wanted to smoke, but I quit 6 months ago. I wanted to scream, but there was a stone silence in my throat. The only thing I did was text her. "Don't rush home. I want to be alone." She replied 2 hours later. "Okay, honey." And this dear suddenly became the ugliest word in the world. In the morning, she acted as if nothing had happened. She made coffee, hugged me from behind, asked if I was late. The same movements, the same words, only not the same energy. Her hands were warm, but not real. They seemed to be playing a role, like an actress who has rehearsed the same scene 100 times, but has long since stopped feeling the text. I stood there, listening to her talk about work, about Jenny's coworker taking sick leave again, about the coffee maker in the office being broken. And I found myself thinking, why don't I hurt anymore? Yesterday I felt like I was going to collapse. Today there's a strange emptiness inside, not even anger. Just nothing. "Why are you so quiet?" she asked as I put on my jacket. "I haven't slept," I replied. And it was true, but not all of it. I couldn't concentrate at work. Every keyboard sound was annoying. Every voice sounded fake. I opened my browser, typed in the address of that motel. I wanted to see the photos, just to make sure it wasn't some absurd coincidence. But then I noticed something. The motel belonged to a company where one of our clients worked. And suddenly I had an idea. To find out who exactly rented the room. I called the company's security department, said I was running a check. I used an old badge that still had the stamp Affiliate Inspector. And yes, I managed to extract the information. The room was booked under the name Jason Larkin, a man I used to work with. And more interestingly, he was my former neighbor. Then it all seemed to make sense. Jason was the type who was always chasing other people's women, bragging about every story like he was collecting victories. And how had I not seen this before? How had I not noticed that he always talked to Kelly for far too long when he came over? I could have called him right away, spoken up, but I didn't. I wanted to know why. Not just with whom, but for what. That evening, I came home later. She was already sitting on the couch, scrolling through her phone and pretending to be immersed in work. "How was your day?" she asked without looking up. "Of course," I said, sitting down next to her. "How was yours?" "Tired. Scary. Maybe we should go somewhere for the weekend? Get away from it all." "Are you serious?" She smiled. "We haven't been anywhere in a long time." She agreed too easily, and I immediately understood. Either she felt guilty, or she wanted to distract me. In any case, it suited me. The day of the trip was strange from the very morning. She was gentle, even too gentle. She kept touching my hands, saying how much she missed such moments, and I watched her as if I were seeing her for the first time. I noticed every little thing, how she touched her hair, how she sipped her coffee, how her gaze slid to the left when she thought about something unpleasant. We arrived in a small town by a lake. I specifically chose a hotel that had no Wi-Fi or TV, just a fireplace and a wooden veranda. I wanted her to feel cut off from the world, and to maybe talk to herself. In the evening, as we sat by the fireplace, I said, "Kelly, are you happy with me?" She smiled at first, but then fell silent. "Why do you ask?" "Because you seem different. Maybe it's just tiredness." "Maybe it's not just tiredness," I said quietly. She looked at me for a long time. There was something in that look between fear and guilt. "Do you know something?" she asked. "And should I know?" I replied. The silence lasted a minute, maybe two. Then she said, "There are things that are better left unexcavated." And in that second I realized that it wasn't that simple. Her tone of voice wasn't that of a guilty person. It was that of someone hiding something but not betrayal. Something more. The next morning, while she was still asleep, I took her phone. Not because I wanted to catch her. I just wanted to understand. Under the password was the date, April 17th. I didn't remember right away, but then it was the day she lost her baby. I opened the messages. Many of them were deleted, but one chat remained. A contact named Jay. I opened it. Jay. You don't have to tell him. It won't change anything anyway. Kelly. I can't lie forever. Jay. He won't understand. He'll hate you. Kelly. I already hate myself. And that's it. No hint of romance. No intimacy. Just something darker. I sat on the bed, clutching my phone, and felt a new question flash in my head. Who is Jay really? And why is she afraid to tell me the truth? I was driving home, but my thoughts were somewhere far away. The lake, the forest, the cold air, everything merged into one fog. Only 3 letters were spinning in my head, J, and the words, I can't lie forever. Kelly was asleep in the passenger seat. Her breathing was even, calm. She trusted me. Even now, and that was what killed me. I could have woken her up, asked her right now. Who is he? But I didn't want to hear another, it's not what you think. I wanted to know the truth, not the words. At home, I pretended everything was fine. She showered and went to the kitchen, and I opened my laptop and started searching. Jason Larkin. Nothing new, just a regular LinkedIn page, old company, no mention of her. I started digging further. Search engines, forums, social media. And then there was a photo. An old one from 5 years ago. Kelly, me, and Jason, the 3 of us, together at a party. But behind him was another person. I looked closer. A younger man, blonde, in a black shirt. Caption? Jason Larkin and his brother John. John. Here he is. Jay. Now the picture began to come together. I remembered that Kelly had once worked with Jason at a charity center. They often went on volunteer trips back then. Sometimes John was with them, a quiet, shy guy who took pictures of everything. I even joked then. Kelly, I think he's a little scared of you. She smiled. No, he just sees too much. I haven't seen him in years. And if he's in her life now, why? The next day, I found his social media profile. The last post was 2 months ago. A photo of the old clinic and the caption, sometimes we hide the truth to protect someone, but the truth never stays buried. My heart sank. I felt a coldness in my veins. What did he mean? And what clinic? I called the number I found in the profile and heard a familiar voice, calm even, unsurprised. You called after all, he said. Is that John? Yes. And I knew you'd call someday. Then tell me what's going on. Do you want the truth? I do. Let's meet. But not at home. And not in her presence. He arranged to meet me at a coffee shop on the outskirts. I arrived early, sat by the window, watched the raindrops slide down the glass. He appeared without any noise. He just sat down opposite, like a man who had already made up his mind. You know, I've been wondering when this will happen, he said. She won't be able to stand it if you don't find out from me. You talk as if you know her better than I do. Maybe you do. I gritted my teeth. If you're with her, tell me straight up. He shook his head. No, it's not an affair. A pause. It's a consequence of what happened 3 years ago. I was silent. 3 years ago. That was the year she had an accident. She was on her way to a meeting, and someone suddenly jumped out onto the road. She miraculously survived, but from then on she hated going back into the night. And the loss of the child. It all fell on that period. She's not guilty, John said. I was driving the other car. What? I pulled over. I didn't see her. Darkness, rain. She braked, went off the road. You... Yes, and I didn't stop. I ran. He lowered his eyes. Then I found out she survived. And I went to her myself. I wanted to confess. But she asked me not to tell you. I couldn't breathe. Why? Because you were destroyed then. You barely got ready for work, slept for 3 hours, lived on coffee. She said that if you found out who did it, you would break down. He spoke softly, almost in a whisper. We met several times. She made me go to the police, but I couldn't. Then she said, "Shut up. This will be my punishment, to lie." I sat in silence. The world around me seemed to disappear. Only his words remained. All those nights when she cried in the bathroom. Those phrases, "I can't forget that day." And I, a fool, thought she was cheating. And she just lived next to my enemy. And kept quiet, so as not to break me completely. "Why did you tell me now?" I asked. "Because she can't stand a lie anymore. And because I can't bear it anymore." He got up, left the money on the table, and left, without even saying goodbye. I sat there for a long time. I looked out the window, but what I saw was not the rain, but that night, 3 years ago, that I had missed, without even realizing that it had changed everything. At home, Kelly was sitting on the floor with a box of old photographs. She didn't even seem surprised when I walked in. "You've seen him," she said. "Yes." "And now you know everything." Her voice trembled, but her eyes were calm. I wanted to say it then. But what difference would it make? You would hate him. Maybe even sit down for what you did to him. "Maybe," I said. "But at least I wouldn't hate you." She lowered her head quietly. "I didn't cheat on you, unless it was the truth." I didn't know what to say. It was like an explosion, but without a sound. Everything around remained intact. Only inside, everything fell apart. After that conversation with Kelly, the world had become too loud. Even the silence now sounded like thunder. Every movement, every breath between us was different. It was as if there was glass between the two people, clear but cold. She didn't hide anything anymore, and yet there was no closeness between us. When lies disappear, sometimes what kept us together disappears with them. The following days, I lived on autopilot. At work, reports, meetings, coffee breaks. At home, short dialogues about everyday life, about shopping, about the weather. She tried to talk. I tried to listen. But the words fell into the void, like into a bottomless well. In the evening, I sat in the car for a long time, taking my time to return. I looked at the light in the windows of our apartment, and I caught myself thinking, if I left now, would she notice that I was gone? And just then, the message came, from the same unknown number that had sent it before. She's with him again today. Now it was different. You think you already know everything, but she didn't tell you the whole truth either. A chill ran through me. I reread it several times. The number was the same. No names. I tried not to believe it, but the old doubt machine was already starting up in my head. I didn't show her the message. I just watched. And the more I looked at her, the more I saw little things I'd missed before. The way she looked out the window when she thought I wasn't looking. The way she put away old photos as if she were afraid I'd find something in them. The way she nervously touched her right hand. The one with the old scar from the accident. A few days later, I couldn't take it anymore. I went to the old hospital. the same one where she was being rescued after the accident. I found the doctor on duty, introduced myself as a relative, and said I wanted to restore her medical history. They said it was needed for insurance purposes. I was taken to the archive. Old folders, the smell of dust, cracked covers. I found her file. My gaze slid along the lines: fractures, concussion, shock. And then a note in red marker. Patient lost baby at 23 weeks. Autopsy denied. Cause of death, undetermined. Recorded at the insistence of clinic representative, J. Larkin. It hit me. John. Was he even there then? But why him and not me? I stood there with this folder, my hand shaking. The doctor asked, "Are you okay?" I didn't answer. He just walked out. The wind outside was cold and sharp. As I walked to the car, I had only one thought in my head. What else is she hiding? I didn't want to be the one digging again. But doubt is a poison that doesn't give you peace. And until you know everything, you won't survive. That night I did something I regretted in a moment, but I couldn't stop myself. I turned on the recorder and put it on the shelf next to the TV. When she came home late, I pretended to be asleep. I wanted to hear who she was talking to when she thought she was alone. The recording in the morning was short. The rustle of keys, her footsteps, the sound of a cup, and then a whisper. She was talking to someone on the phone. I don't know how much longer I can take this. He thinks I'm just keeping quiet, but every day is hell. If he finds out, he'll hate me forever. And the voice in response is male, muffled, barely audible. You have to tell me. I can't watch you suffer anymore. I stopped the playback. The voice, not John's, not familiar. It seemed distorted, but with the distant intonation of someone I once knew. The next day, I checked her phone, again, a chat with Jay. But this time the messages were different. We need to talk. He's close. I know. But if he finds out it's you, it's over. You don't understand. I already paid for this. I sat staring at the screen, my heart beating fast. Kelly came out of the bathroom, saw me, froze. Our eyes met. And there was no guilt in her eyes. Fear. You read everything, right? She whispered. What does paid mean? I asked. She didn't answer. She just sat down on the floor, put her head in her hands, and said quietly, Because it wasn't just an accident, Mark. It was something more. And I don't know how to tell you this without breaking down. I stood there, not understanding what was next. What I learned was no longer about betrayal. It had become something dark, confusing, as if she was hiding not just the past, but a whole story I had never even imagined. And then I realized I'm not afraid of the truth. I'm afraid that I won't be able to stand it. She was silent for a long time. I could see her hands shaking, her eyes searching the room for support, something to hold on to so she wouldn't fall apart. She looked tired. Not physically, like she'd been carrying a rock inside her for years and was finally ready to let it go. Mark, she began quietly. I said I was alone that night. That wasn't true. I felt my heart sink. Who was with you? 2. John, and one other. The one you should never see again. I was silent. She looked up at me. That was your brother, Alex. The world seemed to have turned upside down. The room had lost its shape. I stared at her, trying to make sense of what I had heard, but my brain refused to accept it. Is this a joke? I finally managed to say. No, and I'm sorry I didn't tell you sooner. She took a deep breath, clasping her hands in her lap. That evening we met at the foundation office where I worked at the time. We were raising money for a new clinic. John was supposed to give a report, But Alex came too. I didn't know you had had a fight. I kept quiet. She continued. He said he had information for me, that he wanted to help me with the project. But when I was alone, he started talking about something other than work. About you, about your company, your debts, about how you lied to him. I didn't understand why he came to me and not you. He was already in trouble then, I said quietly, and I couldn't help him. He said you betrayed him, that it was your fault he got kicked out. I tried not to listen, but he was unstable, angry. She closed her eyes. We went to talk. He wanted to show me documents that would prove he was right. But it all happened so quickly. An argument, a scream, rain, and suddenly, a car. John was driving behind. He saw everything. She trembled. Alex was standing right in the road, yelling at me, and I slammed on the brakes, but they didn't work. John cut me off, trying to avoid a collision. I went off the road. Her voice broke. When I came to, Alex was gone. They couldn't find him. Just blood on the side of the road. I felt something break in my chest. You mean, I could barely speak, that my brother... We don't know what happened to him, she interrupted. The police didn't find anything. He just disappeared. And you were silent all this time? My voice broke, becoming hoarse, almost foreign. She looked up at me, her eyes shining with fatigue, guilt, and something else. A quiet despair that bordered on humility. Yes, she said, almost in a whisper, because I didn't know how else to. You would have been completely shattered. I had a right to know. I felt my fists clenching on their own. I was looking for him, cursing everyone who was silent. And all this time, you watched me go crazy and didn't say a word. She bowed her head again. Every time I tried, it felt like I was killing you a second time. You looked at me, and I saw that you were still living for him to come back. And if I told you the truth, you would simply stop living. I took a step toward her, then another, until I was standing very close. What now? I asked quietly. What am I supposed to do about this, Kelly? Pretend nothing happened? I'm not asking you to forgive me, she said. I just want you to hear the end. She sat up, cupping her temples with her hands, as if afraid her head would explode from the memories. Then, after the accident, when I came to, the police said the body hadn't been found. But a few days later, someone called me. No name, no explanation. Just one sentence. Don't look for him. He chose to disappear on his own. And did you believe it? At first, no. I thought it was a joke, or someone's cruel prank. But then I received an envelope, without a return address. Inside was his old pendant, the one he had worn since childhood. She took out a small metal disc and placed it on the table. I recognized it immediately. On the back was our childhood engraving, M&A, Brothers Forever. The silence between us became thick, almost material. I don't know who sent me this, she whispered. But ever since then I've lived with the idea that he's out there somewhere, breathing the same air. He just doesn't want to be found. I took the pendant in my hand, cold as ice, and then I felt something in my chest finally break. Not anger, not despair, something deeper. A thin crunch of guilt that splits everything it touches inside. If he's alive, I said, looking at the pendant, then he didn't just disappear. He's running away. But from whom? Kelly raised her head. That's what I'm afraid to find out, she replied. Because if we start looking for the truth, it might find us first. Because I didn't know how to say it, she whispered. How do you tell a person that you might be responsible for their brother's death? Her voice trembled, but there was no falsehood in it. I could see that she wasn't lying, and that made it even harder. I slowly got up and walked to the window. The night outside was quiet and windless. The city lights looked distant, almost indifferent. I wanted to scream, but I couldn't even breathe. You should have told me, Kelly. I spoke quietly, almost evenly. Not in a year, not in 3, then, right away. I tried, she gulped. But you were on edge then. You couldn't accept that he was gone anyway. And if you found out I was there, you would destroy yourself. And that's why you let me think for years that he was just gone. I wanted to protect you. You killed my brother, and you call that protection? I blurted out. She shuddered, as if she had been struck. Then she closed her eyes. If you want me to go, she said quietly, I will. But know this. It wasn't intentional. And it's not all as you think. I looked at her and felt 2 forces fighting inside me. The first was anger, blind, cruel, burning everything around. The second was pity. Because despite everything, she sat before me, broken, scared, honest. And I couldn't understand which of these 2 truths to choose. Not everything, I think, I finally said. Then explain. John didn't just lie to you about the accident. What do you mean? He wasn't just a witness then. He knew Alex would come, and he knew why. I sat down, not looking away. She took a deep breath, as if preparing to jump into the cold water. John worked for your company at the time. He knew about the debts, about those gray schemes that Alex got into to get you out of trouble. I clenched my fists. He told me that Alex was blackmailing someone, that he had been warned, but he didn't listen. She spoke quickly, like someone who was afraid to be silent. That night, Alex wasn't driving to see me. He was driving to see John, and he had documents with him. Compromising evidence. But in the end, he ended up next to me. He said that John was playing on 2 fronts. I didn't understand what he was talking about. And what happened next? When I went off the road, John drove up to me. But before that, he stopped at Alex's. And I don't know what happened between them. He didn't tell. Silence hung between us. It felt like she was telling the truth, but this truth was only a fragment. Behind it was something even darker. Do you understand what this means? I asked. My brother might not have been a victim, but a key to something bigger. That's why I kept quiet, she replied. Because John is still around, and he's not who you think he is. That night I didn't sleep. I walked around the apartment, drank cold coffee, listened to her breathing behind the wall. Fragments of phrases, looks, smells, voices were spinning in my head. My brain recreated every detail, trying to put together a puzzle that wasn't coming together. John worked with Alex, then with Kelly. Then the brother disappeared. Then the lie came. And now he's back. But for what? I found his address in the morning. An old industrial area outside the city. A building with a broken barrier and a faded sign that said, Larkin Storage. I arrived there alone, unannounced. He was sitting in the garage, smoking, not surprised when he saw me. I knew you'd come, he said, tossing a cigarette butt into the jar. And you're not even hiding. Why would you? You won't believe me or her anyway. Try it. He took a deep breath. Your brother was my friend, but he made a mistake, a big one. He found something he wasn't supposed to see. What exactly? Reports, yours, companies, names, accounts, deals, everything. He wanted to save you by showing your investors the truth. But he didn't realize that he was signing a sentence for himself. I felt the blood pounding in my temples. You're lying. You think so? John smiled wryly. Ask Kelly to show you the safe, the one she's kept ever since, and see what's in there. I drove home, not remembering the way. Kelly was sitting in the kitchen, curled up in a blanket. When I said safe, her face turned pale. He told you? What? It's not what you think. She went to the closet, pushed back the back panel. A small metal safe. The code was 4 digits. She dialed 0417, the same date, the day the child was lost. Inside was an envelope and a flash drive. These are reports, she said. And the video, what Alex filmed that night. I took the flash drive, inserted it into my laptop. The file opened immediately. It started with darkness, breathing, the sound of rain. Then Alex's voice. If you see this, then I'm not back. They found out I have copies. Don't trust John. And tell Kelly I'm not guilty. The screen shuddered. A beam of headlights appeared. And then a bang. Loud, metallic, deafening. Then silence. I turned off my laptop. Kelly stood next to me, holding her shoulders. Now you know everything, she said. But what you're going to do with it, I don't know. I looked at her, and for the first time in all these years, I felt neither love nor hate, only fear, because I understood. This is not the end. This is just the beginning. After that video, something inside me broke completely. There were no more doubts, no more questions, just a sharp, cold feeling that I had been led in circles all this time, like a dog on a leash. And everyone I trusted was lying. Everyone except the dead one. The next morning I arrived at my old office. It had changed, new logos, new faces. I hadn't worked there in 2 years, but my name was still on a few contracts. The secretary recognized me immediately. Mr. Hayden, I'll be back soon, I said. I need to look at the 2020 archives. I spoke confidently, as I used to. She didn't even ask permission from management. I knew where everything was. I knew which folder to go into. And when I opened it, I saw familiar numbers, the ones I had seen on the flash drive. Only in my copies they were different. Fake reports with my signatures under fictitious agreements. And they were all with the contractor Larkin Consulting, John's company. I sat at the table looking through papers while everything inside me was tightening. He wasn't just a witness. He was the organizer. And Alex found out. And then he disappeared. I left the building, turned up the collar of my coat. The fine rain settled on my skin, cold, almost cutting. I tried to remember every conversation I had with John, every phrase I had missed. And with each memory I realized more and more. He was not standing next to Kelly by chance. He was watching. He was controlling. That night, I didn't sleep. The light from the street was shining through the window, and only 2 words were running through my head: video and evidence. I opened the flash drive again, looked at the files more carefully. In addition to the main video, there was another one, a short one, a few seconds long. The frame was blurry. In the darkness, you could only see a hand throwing something into the trunk, and the license plate number was 9FZ23R. I checked the database. The car belonged to Larkin Consulting. The same one, and it was registered to John. I called him from another number. He didn't pick up. I sent a message. We need to talk, or I'll go to the police. The answer came a minute later. No need. Come yourself. Without her. I told Kelly I was going to a meeting. She grabbed my hand. Don't go to him, please. Why? Because he's not who he seems. I already know. She watched me as I left. Her face was pale, her eyes red, like someone who sees someone walking into a precipice but can't stop them. We arranged to meet in an old parking lot near the port. It was dark, the wind was blowing off the water, the smell of rust and gasoline. He stood under a lamppost, in a black jacket, calm, even smiling. "Mark," he said, "don't think it's that simple. Just—" I tossed him the flash drive. "It's your car. You were there that night. And what does that prove? That you were involved in his death?" He smiled out of the corner of his mouth. "You want the truth? The real truth? You won't like it." I took a step closer. "Tell me." "Your brother wasn't a victim. He blackmailed me. He stole these documents and demanded money. I gave him everything I could, but he wanted more. And when he realized I wouldn't pay, he decided to leak the information. Then I just stopped him. I didn't understand right away." "Stopped?" "You understand. You killed him. I saved you, Mark. If he had opened this data, you would have sat down. You signed everything without reading. I just removed the unnecessary threat." The wind blew harder. I stood there in silence, trying to process what I had heard. "You killed him? And she covered for you?" "She didn't know. Not then. And now?" "Now. She knows everything. And it's all the same to you." He stepped closer, lowered his voice. "Do you know why? Because she understands that you're not a hero. You're an accomplice." I clenched my fists. "Careful, John." "Oh, I've been careful for a long time," he smiled. "Everything you have is mine. The company, the money, even her." I felt something inside me tearing. My hands went forward on their own. I pushed him. He stepped back, but didn't fall. He just smiled even wider. "See? You're just like me." I turned and left, not listening to anything else. The rain mixed with tears, although I didn't even feel like crying. Only one thought was racing through my head. I have to prove it. Everything. And put an end to it. That night I started to make a plan. I knew the police wouldn't help. John had covered it up too well. The only way was to gather my own evidence. I started with the company. Old contracts, mail, internal messages. Step by step, the picture was forming. John was falsifying data, laundering money through Larkin Consulting, using my name. And then, when Alex became suspicious, he removed him. A week later, I had everything. Copies of letters, bills, even surveillance footage. I could have gone to the police. But for some reason I didn't. Maybe because of her. Kelly walked like a shadow, didn't eat, didn't sleep. Every time I went out, she asked the same thing. "Will you come back?" And I didn't know how to respond. One evening I found an envelope on my doorstep, unsigned. Inside was a flash drive, a new video file, dated 2 days ago. I opened it. The camera was shaking, darkness, then John's face. And behind him was Kelly. She was sitting in the car, bound and gagged. He was looking straight into the camera. "You wanted the truth, Mark. Come tomorrow at midnight, alone, and you will get it." I stopped the video. My chest tightened. This wasn't a game anymore, and I knew the next night would decide everything. It was raining like a curse. The cold water hit my face, but I barely felt it. There was only one image in my head. Her. Her eyes in that video. And that short breath when she tried to say my name, but couldn't. The meeting place is an old factory on the outskirts of the city. Abandoned, dark. Once they made metal structures there. Now there is only silence. rust, and the smell of dust. I arrived without a phone, without a weapon, only a flash drive in my pocket and one thought: either the end or starting from scratch. I went inside. The darkness swallowed every sound. In the distance, a light flickered, a lamp hanging from a wire. He stood beneath it. John. Still the same, calm even smiling, like a man who holds all the cards. "You're here," he said. I had my doubts. "Where is she?" I blurted out. "Don't worry, she's right there." Two people emerged from the darkness, people in black, masks, no faces. Between them was Kelly, bound but alive. Her eyes lit up when she saw me. I stepped forward, but one of the men raised his hand. "Quiet," John said. "We don't want any trouble." "You won," I said. "Take whatever you want." "No," he smiled. "I don't want money." "Then what?" "The truth, Mark. The real thing." He tossed me a folder. Inside were the same reports, but this time with attachments. It wasn't just John's signatures. It had my emails, my passwords, my account transactions. "Do you think I used you?" he said. "No, we were partners. Until you tried to blame it all on me." "Lies." "No." He moved closer. "You got Alex involved. He knew you were signing fake deals. He wanted to stop you. I was just trying to hold him back. But he snapped, and you know how it ended." I stood there, feeling everything around me start to shake. You mean Alex? Alive?" he said, quietly. "And he's waiting for you." Those words hit harder than any gunshot. "You're lying. Do you want to make sure?" He gave a sign, and a shadow emerged from behind the column. Tall, thin, with deep-set eyes. For a moment I thought I was seeing a ghost. And then I recognized it. Alex, my brother. The world stopped for a second. I took a step. "This is impossible." He was silent. "Are you alive?" "As you can see." His voice was hollow, as if from another world. Although sometimes I don't believe it myself. I stared at him, unable to utter a word. John, meanwhile, had stepped aside, watching with delight. "There's your truth," he said. "You figure it out for yourself." Alex took a step forward. I didn't die that night. I ran away, because I knew that if I stayed, I would either be imprisoned or wiped out. "But why didn't you tell me?" "Because you were up to your ears in everything, Mark. Do you think I didn't see your deal? Didn't hear your conversations with John? He got me involved." "You signed everything yourself. Because I trusted you." "That's right," he smiled bitterly. "You've always trusted the wrong people. Even now." I could feel everything boiling inside. "What now?" I asked. "Now you're going to come with me. You're going to confess. And we're both going to come out clean." "And her?" I looked at Kelly. "She's just an accidental victim. She knew too much." I looked at John. He was standing to the side, silent. Only the corner of his lips twitched treacherously. And then I understood. They've been together. From the very beginning. "You were playing together," I said quietly. "Both of you?" John only raised an eyebrow. "Congratulations, you finally understand." "But why?" "Because you're the key. Everything that's signed with your name is proof. And when you're broken, everything you've built will break. You wanted to make me confess. We wanted the truth to come out." Alex spoke calmly, but his eyes were shining, because no one else would. I took a step back. In my pocket was a flash drive, the same one with the video. I pressed the remote in my hand, a small transmitter, which activated the recording. Every word they said, was now recorded on the recorder in my car. "If the truth is to come out," I said, "it will come out. But not according to your script." I threw the flash drive aside, right under the lamp. John rushed towards it, and I grabbed Kelly and pushed one of the guards away sharply. A shot rings out. Glass explodes. The lamp goes out. Darkness. We ran through the rain, sliding on the wet ground. Behind us were screams, the dull roar of the engine. Ahead was the night and a chance to escape. I started the car almost blindly. Kelly was shaking, wet but alive. She looked at me. "Is he really alive?" "Yes, and he seems to still be playing." We drove without words, the kilometers mixed with memories. I didn't know who the enemy was now. John? Alex? Me? One thing was clear. History is not over yet. Because when the truth comes out, it always wants blood. We drove until we ran out of gas. An empty highway, a forest all around. The car's headlights cutting a narrow strip of road out of the darkness. And nothing else. No light, no sound, no people. Just silence that could be cut with a knife. Kelly sat next to me, her hands on her knees, her fingers clenched into a fist. I could feel her on edge, but I wasn't any further away. "Where to now?" she asked. "We don't have a now," I replied. "Until we understand what's really going on, there's no point in moving." I got out of the car, smelled the wet earth, fresh and bitter. The night resembled a living being, watching, waiting, breathing beside me. The phone vibrated in my pocket, an unknown number. I pressed accept. The voice was calm even. "Alex, don't run. It's pointless," he said. "No matter where you go, we'll find you." "We?" I felt my fingers grow cold. "Yes, we. And even if you think you have everything under control right now, you're wrong." "What do you want?" I asked. "Only one thing. For you to admit, publicly, that you signed all this. You want to blame it all on me? I want someone to finally be punished. Because you're the one who's to blame." "I didn't kill you," I shouted into the phone. "I was looking for you. I was losing my mind because of you." "And was it easier for me?" His voice became harsh. "I watched you live on, like she lives on, without any remorse." Silence. Then a short signal. The connection was lost. "Is that him?" Kelly whispered. I nodded. "He says we're to blame. He's always been unstable. After what happened." She stopped. "After what?" She lowered her eyes. "You see, he didn't just disappear. He was being treated. In a clinic. For a long time." "In which clinic?" "The same one that was financed by your foundation." I froze. The foundation. The company. The clinic. Everything came full circle. "We found an old motel by the highway abandoned, with broken windows but the roof still on. I lit a small fire in the fireplace, and we sat together in silence. Her hands shook as she picked up a mug of water. The fire danced in her eyes, and I thought how strange it was that even in hell a person would seek warmth. "Do you believe he's alive?" she asked. "I saw him. I can't help but believe him." "Are you sure it was him?" I looked at her. "What do you mean?" Alex was different. His face, his voice. He looked at me as if he were seeing me for the first time, like someone else. Her words sank into his head, like shards of glass. He was really different. His movements were slow, cold. His face seemed calm, but without a shadow of emotion, like someone who no longer lived, but only existed. I opened my laptop, plugged in the evidence flash drive, but it wouldn't boot. The files were gone. Everything. As if they had never been there. Just a short text file called Izhou 1 Zhao AM. I opened it. Don't look. You won't understand. Everything you see is a reflection of who you were. The real thing will begin at 1. I looked at my watch. 0:42. 15 minutes until the real time. Kelly fell asleep on the couch, her face hidden in the light from the fire. I sat opposite, listening to the crackling of the wood, and suddenly, a soft sound. The door. Someone came in. Slowly, confidently. I raised my head and saw a shadow. She stopped at the door, the light from the flames falling on her face. And for a moment I thought it was Alex. But it was John. "You're not even trying to hide," he said, stepping inside. "I warned you." "What do you want?" I stood up. "You. And everything you have." I took a step closer, but he pulled out his phone and tapped something. There was a video on the screen. Kelly and I in the car, on the way here. Recorded today. "You're watching us." "I'm just making sure you don't do anything stupid." He sat down on a chair by the fireplace, as if he were the master of the place. "Listen," he said. "Alex, you're not alone. There are people who would benefit from your downfall, and I'm the only one who can save you, by the way." "You?" I laughed. "After everything?" "Yes, because I understand how this shit works. And if you don't sign the confession, they'll do it for you. Only without you." I looked at him, trying to figure out if it was a threat or an attempt to help. "And what are you offering?" "Exchange." "For what?" "Her." He nodded at Kelly. "Give me the flash drive with the copies, and she'll stay alive. The flash drive is gone." "Lies." He smiled. "You always have a copy." I was silent. And at that moment there was a rustling behind him. Kelly woke up, in her hand a piece of metal from the broken frame of the chair. She crept up, swung it, and hit him on the head. John fell. Blood on the floor. Silence. I stood there, not believing what I was seeing. "We had to," she whispered. He wouldn't have stopped. I leaned over to him. His breathing was still there, but weak. And then his phone fell out of his jacket pocket. On the screen, a new message. From AL. "Okay, I'll follow them. Wait for the signal." I looked up at her. He wasn't working alone. "Alex?" she said, barely audible. I nodded. "He's leading us." There was the sound of an engine outside. Someone drove up. Headlights slid along the motel walls. I looked at the clock. 1 a.m. "The real thing starts at 1. I grabbed Kelly's hand, and we ran out the back door. The air was sharp, the grass was slippery, the ground was deaf. Behind me, the echo of footsteps. Ahead, the light of a headlight. And in that light, for a moment I saw him again. Alex. And he was smiling. We ran through the wet forest as if through a dream. The trees looked the same, each branch reaching out like a hand, trying to stop us. Behind us, the sound of an engine, headlights sliding between the trunks. The light flickered like a blade. Kelly was gasping for air. I could hear her gasping for air. We jumped out into an old clearing, with faint tracks visible somewhere below. "That way!" I pointed to the tunnel, a dark opening between the hills. We went down, stumbling, falling in the mud. When we finally got inside, I heard the engine die down. The headlights stopped on the slope. And then there was silence. No one got out. I felt water running down my back, but the cold wasn't from the rain. It was closer. I could feel it without even seeing it. We sat in the dark, hearing only our own breathing. Kelly whispered, "He's playing with us." "I know." "Do you think he really wants to kill us?" "No, he wants me to do it myself." She shuddered. "What are you talking about?" "He's not looking for revenge. He's looking for redemption. And in his sick head, I'm a part of that. I felt my phone vibrate again in my pocket. The number was the same. AL. You understand, Mark. Everything that happened that night wasn't her fault, not John's. And it wasn't mine. It was you. I reread it several times, in disbelief. Kelly noticed my expression. What did he write? I didn't answer. Mark, follow me, I said. I have to check one place. We emerged from the tunnel when the rain had almost stopped. The rail line led to the old depot. There, outside the city, there had once been service containers, abandoned after the renovation. I knew Alex liked places like that. Quiet, with lots of hiding places. A weak spotlight shone near one of the containers. There was a fresh scratch on the door, as if it had been opened recently. I pressed the handle. The door gave way. Inside was a table, an old monitor, and a screen on which a video was already playing. I recognized myself. A young version of myself, from 3 years ago. Office, night. I'm standing by the safe. I take out the documents, put them in my bag, sign the ledger with someone else's signature, and in the last frames, the same contract that was on the flash drive. My signature. My date. No, I whispered. It's a montage. It's you, Mark, Kelly said, looking at the screen. The same suit, the watch. No, I screamed. I don't remember that. But he does, came a voice from the darkness. We turned around. Alex stood in the doorway, alive, real, and with a cold glint in his eyes. I warned you, he said. I wanted you to remember. Remember what? That night you weren't driving home, you were drunk, Mark, and you were the one who crashed into her car. Kelly froze. What's he saying? Alex took a step closer. John came later to clean up, and I tried to save you, you fool. But you didn't even remember the blood on the steering wheel. I felt my legs go cold. Images, fragments of memory, the flashes of headlights, the metallic screech of brakes, the smell of smoke, and her voice. Alex, brake. Only, it wasn't Alex. It was me. No, I whispered. No, You killed your child, he said, and she was protecting you all this time. Kelly took a step back, eyes wide, tears mixed with fear. That's not true. Tell me it's not true. I couldn't. I just stood there and looked at him, and then at her. You knew everything, I said to Alex, and kept quiet, because I wanted you to understand yourself. And now what? Now it's justice. He raised the gun. Kelly screamed. I raised my hands. If this is going to end, it won't end in her blood. Alex took a step forward. Hers isn't, but yours is. And pulled the trigger. The shot tore through the air. All I could feel was the impact, the warmth in my chest, a strange sense of relief. But I wasn't the one who fell. Kelly threw herself between us. Her body fell on top of me, her hands still shaking. My eyes stared into the darkness, and there, at the very bottom, I saw something like peace. Alex stood still. His fingers on the gun were white. She shouldn't. He took a step back. It wasn't supposed to be like this. He dropped his weapon, and the sound of metal echoed off the walls like a scream. I held her in my arms, not knowing what to say. She whispered, "Now you remember." "I'm sorry," I replied. "I didn't mean to." "I know." She closed her eyes, and everything was quiet. Alex went outside. I heard him say to someone on the phone, he remembered everything. And she's dead. Then the door clicks. And silence. I was left alone. The room smelled of smoke and blood. A monitor was flashing on the table. The same video file, Only now I saw something different on the screen. A short line of text. You finally remembered who you are, but it's not over yet. I looked up. Somewhere outside, an engine rumbled. I went to the window, and I saw several cars without license plates, headlights flashing, people in black. They were coming for me. I stood by the window, not moving. The headlights cut through the night, reflecting in the puddles, in the glass, in the blood on my hands. They were everywhere. The ones who had come for me. How many of them were there? 5, 10. I saw only shadows. But each one moved with precision. Not the police. People who don't ask questions. I bent down and picked up Kelly's body. It was as light as a dream. You weren't supposed to die, I whispered. You just wanted me to remember. Her hair smelled of rain and smoke. I laid her on the couch, covered her with my jacket, and picked up the gun that had fallen from Alex's hands. The footsteps grew closer. I saw the door slowly open, the headlights filtering in. I stepped back into the shadows, clutching the cold metal in my hand. The two entered, quietly, in unison, without noise. They weren't looking. They knew where I was. The first one stepped to the table, bent over Kelly's body. I heard him say briefly, "-1," and then I fired, twice. The first fell immediately, the second screamed, and the sound of the bullet mingled with his scream. Then everything became mechanical. I saw no faces, only shadows, movements, blows. Each shot struck my chest like a blade. My brain didn't think. My body acted. When everything quieted down, I stood in the middle of the room. My breathing was cutting into my lungs. There was silence all around. Only the rain was running down the roof, quietly, rhythmically, as if counting the seconds. I knew this wasn't the end. If these were just cleaners, the real ones would be here in an hour. I looked at the monitor. The video had just started again. Alex was on the screen. His face was close to the camera, his eyes empty. You did what I wanted. You remembered. Now they're coming for you, not me. Justice is just a word, Mark. Reality is a deal, and you've already signed it. I hit the screen with my fist. The monitor shattered. The light went out. And in the darkness, all that remained was my breathing. My own. Ragged, heavy, alien. I went outside. The air smelled of wet earth and metal. In the distance, I could hear the sound of a siren. Maybe the police, maybe another stage of the game. I walked forward, without direction, without meaning, without her. Lights flashed on the highway. I raised my hand, trying to stop the truck. The driver braked, pulled over. "Hey, are you okay?" "Take me into town," I said. "You're covered in blood, buddy." "Just drive." The road stretched on and on. I sat staring at the wet glass and thought, maybe Alex was right. Maybe I really deserved all of this. Maybe Kelly just wanted to stop me while she still could. The phone vibrated again. The message was anonymous. "She is alive. Do you want to see her? Come to the very place where it all began." I felt my heart stop for a moment. My fingers trembled. I typed a short reply. "I will." Same place. Motel. 3 years ago. Same room. Door open. I walked in slowly. It smelled of damp cloth and old dust. The light flickered. There was a shadow on the bed. And then a voice. "Hello, Mark." She sat, leaning against the wall, bruised, pale skin, but alive. "Kelly." I took a step toward her, but she raised her hand. "Don't come any closer." "Kelly, do you remember everything?" I was silent. She smiled bitterly. "Then you understand why I can't be around anymore." The door behind me clicked shut. I turned. Alex was standing in the aisle, without the gun now, just watching. "You see, brother," he said quietly, "she still loves you, even after everything. She wasn't supposed to die, Alex. She didn't. It was a scene, like your whole story." He threw me a flash drive. "There's the last recording." "What's this?" "The truth. The one that's left." I inserted the flash drive into the laptop on the table. The video opened immediately. I saw myself again, like 3 years ago. Only now the camera was from a different angle. I was getting out of the car, covered in blood, holding a small box in my hands. Inside was a pregnancy test. And then I understood. That night, I found out we had a child. And I was drunk not from alcohol, but from panic. He, my brother, had come to pick me up from the road. And I didn't give him a chance. In the video, I was screaming. He was pulling me out of the car. I pushed him away, stepped on the gas, and disappeared into the darkness. Impact, glass, silence. The screen went blank. I stared at the blank monitor, and for the first time in years, I felt it. Not anger, not fear, guilt, real, unexcused guilt. Alex stood by the door. "Now you know." "What now?" "Now you're free." "From what?" "From us." He left without even looking back. I remained sitting next to her. Kelly was looking out the window. "Maybe it's over now," she said. "No," I said. "It's just beginning now." Outside the window, dawn was coloring the sky. The light was slowly dissolving the shadows. And there was only one thought in my head. Betrayal is not when you are deceived. It is when you lie to yourself. The police station was cold, like a hospital. The smell of coffee, old paper, and silence. The same silence I had lived in for the past 3 years. I was sitting in the hallway, a flash drive in my hand, a small piece of plastic that seemed to weigh a lifetime. A red light was flashing on the monitor above the desk. "Recording in progress." "Are you sure you want to testify without a lawyer?" asked the officer, short, gray-haired, with an indifferent look. "Yes. Anything you say can be used against you." "That's exactly what I want." I laid it all out, every detail, every night, even the things they don't say out loud. They listened in silence, only occasionally taking notes. When I finished, the officer stood up, took the flash drive, nodded, and said, "Stay here." I sat and waited. An hour, 2. A new day was already dawning outside the window, and no one called me. Finally, another man appeared, in a dark suit, with an expression that only those without illusions have. He put the flash drive on the table and sat down opposite. "We've reviewed your materials, Mr. Hayden. And you do realize that most of the video is edited?" "It's not an edit. I saw it with my own eyes." "Maybe, but the technical examination says otherwise." I felt my chest tighten. "Are you saying I made all this up?" "I mean, without confirmation from living witnesses, it's all just words." I laughed, quietly, briefly. "And if there are no more witnesses?" "Then we have no case." When I left the station, the city was already awake. People were going to work, some were laughing, some were drinking coffee. And no one knew that I had just confessed to a murder that might not have happened. I walked, listening to the sound of my own footsteps. And I thought how strange it was that the truth didn't change anything. It just existed, like an old house that everyone saw but ignored. I buried Kelly quietly, without the press, without relatives. On her tombstone I wrote, "She kept silent so that others could live." Because that's probably exactly what she did. Alex disappeared again. No trace. Only a letter that arrived in the mail a week later. "We are both guilty, brother. Only you dared to say it out loud. Now live, if you can. There was no signature. 3 months passed. I returned to my apartment, empty as after a fire. The walls smelled of memories. Her phone was on the table. Only one unclosed chat in my memory. Jay. I opened it. The last message from her. If he ever remembers, don't judge him. He's not a monster. He just forgot who he was. I sat in the dark and looked out the window. Behind the glass was the rain, just like back then. Everything was happening again. Only now I wasn't looking for excuses anymore. Because betrayal is not in actions. It is in the moment when you see the truth and decide to turn away. And I turned away for too long. Sometime during the night I thought I heard her voice. A whisper, soft, familiar. You are free, Mark. I closed my eyes, and for the first time in years, there was no fear. Only silence. Quiet, real, honest. The morning light filtered through the curtains. I got up, put on my coat, and went outside. The rain had stopped. The air was clear. I didn't know where I was going. But for the first time in a long time, it didn't matter. Because wherever I end up, it's all over. And all that's left is to live. Without her. Without excuses. And without lies. End